Hello, welcome to Intermediate Programming with Python, Section A4 in Mini 4 of the spring of 2023. My name is John Ostlund, and I will be your professor for this course. I'd like to do a review of the syllabus, so let's get into it. Our lectures will be on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 o'clock to 3:20 p.m. in the afternoon in Hamburg Hall, room 2009. My name, as I said, is John Ostlund, and here is my official Andrew email address, jostlund@andrew, etc. I will be available to you all week, any day of the week, roughly from about 10 in the morning till 9 in the evening, unless I'm traveling or for some other reason briefly unavailable. And you should feel free to email me at any time with any questions about the course or about the homework or about the lectures or whatever, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I'm frequently able to get back to people with questions within an hour or so, certainly within 24 hours of whenever you send me an email. When I'm working all the time. Don't worry about bothering me on the weekends or Friday evenings. I'm around. We will have official office hours by Zoom from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. each Saturday, and also from 10 a.m. to noon on Sunday every week. So in addition to emailing me, feel free to drop by for these Zoom office hours for these 2 hours in the late afternoon on Saturday and just before noon, the 2 hours before noon on Sunday. As far as lectures are concerned, I will be pre-recording lecture videos that I will post on YouTube. This is going to be true for all of the lectures. You are welcome and encouraged to attend my in-person lectures, but if for some reason you can't make it or you would just rather watch things on video, the videos will always be available. In fact, it is possible, it does sometimes happen, that I run out of time in an in-person lecture to cover all of the material that I plan to cover, and in that case, in the lectures, I will refer you to please watch whatever I didn't have time to cover on these YouTube videos. We will be ably assisted by a couple of teaching assistants for the course. The primary job that the TAs have is to help me with grading assignments and also to answer questions that you might ask them by email. I leave it up to my TAs to decide whether they want to have office hours by Zoom. That is entirely up to them. So they may or may not do that, and if they do that, they will announce it. Okay. So this is a 7-week course, which is a follow-up to the Introduction to Programming with Python course. You may have taken that with me, you may have taken that with Professor Barrett, or with someone else, or perhaps you have tested out of that introductory course. We assume that you understand basic things in Python like decisions and loops and the low-level data types, numbers and strings and booleans, that you understand about functions, doing file input and output, that you understand the built-in collection types, specifically lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries, and also that you have some familiarity with the NumPy numerical computation library. We are going to continue from there to cover gathering data from a variety of sources, including what's called web scraping, that is going to a website and sucking down the source code, the HTML source code for that website, and extracting useful information from the website. We'll also take a look at pulling information from APIs, so-called application programmer interfaces, or application programming interfaces, excuse me, and also comma-separated value files, JSON files, and other kinds of structured data files. We'll take a look at tools that you can use for cleaning the data that you have obtained through whatever mechanism. And we're going to take a look at a somewhat higher level language library, excuse me, that sits on top of NumPy, something called Pandas, which gives you a spreadsheet-like organization of your data, where you have columns containing various characteristics or attributes, and then you have rows containing the records or the observations of these attributes. So to make that a little more concrete, you might have a Pandas so-called data frame consisting of, let's say the attributes of patients in a doctor's office, such as the name, age, height, weight, blood type, home address, phone number, blah, blah, blah. Those might be the columns. And then the rows would be the individual patients in this doctor's office. Or as another similar example, you might have as columns, let's say the counties in Pennsylvania, and as the rows, you might have the number of outbreaks of COVID for each day during a year. So the rows would be days of the year with dates attached to them, and the columns would be the various different counties. And we're going to see that Pandas has a variety of capabilities for analyzing such tabular data. We're going to look at using what's called regular expression notation to allow you to extract meaningful information out of non-structured files, ordinary text files or other non-comma separated value, non-JSON kinds of information. We are going to introduce classes and object-oriented programming and have a look at how to go about building a real-world software application. Okay, so that's our plan, that's our goals. Now, there is some confusion about how this class relates to another Heinz class called Data Focused Python. Since you are taking this course, you should not take the Data Focused Python course, because the Data Focused Python course is redundant after you have taken this intermediate Python course. Similarly, if you have already taken the Data Focused Python course, then you have already seen everything that we cover in this intermediate Python course, so you should not take this course if you've already taken Data Focused Python. The names of these courses, frankly, have confused our students. And so for the upcoming year, just to try to clarify what's going on, we have renamed the introductory course and the intermediate courses as Python 1 and Python 2, and we have renamed Data Focused Python as Accelerated Python. So the introductory course and the intermediate course together cover the same material as the Data Focused Python course, but at a more moderate pace for people who don't have lots of prior programming experience. The Data Focused Python course, which we are renaming as Accelerated Python, is intended for people who do have a lot of prior programming experience in languages such as Java or C++ or Objective-C or whatever. And we cover the same material as the intro course and the intermediate course, but twice as fast. Okay, so it is not the case that it does not make sense to go from the intermediate course to the data focused Python course. That would be similar to compare it to calculus. Let's say it's common for calculus to have calculus 1 and calculus 2, where we do differential calculus in calculus 1 and integral calculus in calculus 2. And then for those who have more sophisticated math background from high school, you might have an accelerated calculus course that covers both differential and integral calculus in the same semester at double speed. And that's basically what data focused Python is. So if you go from intermediate Python to data focused Python, you're covering exactly the same material that you already know. All right, well, I'm sorry I wasted so much time gabbling about that. Okay, so goals for this particular course. We're going to review and reinforce basic Python programming. We're going to introduce new methods of receiving input data, cleaning that data, and analyzing the data using additional Python libraries. And we're going to give you more experience doing more advanced programming, up to and including doing object-oriented programming and analyzing unstructured text using regular expressions. Okay. Now, in terms of software, we are going to use Anaconda, which includes, at least the current version of Anaconda includes Python 3.9. Python 3.10 is available, so you can use that if you would prefer, but we're not going to be using any features specific to Python 3.10. Actually, you could get away with using a version of Python as old as 3.7, and you wouldn't really see much difference. Okay. Now, if you go to anaconda.com/download and click the download button, what you will get is something called Anaconda 2022.11, which was, or I'm sorry, 2022.10, which was released in October of 2022. This video here that I encourage you to take a look at describes installing 22.05, which is from May, but basically the installation procedure for 2022.10 is essentially the same as 2022.05. As your development environment, we're going to assume that everybody has access to Spyder version 5. You can use this clunky old thing called idle. I kind of recommend against that. Now, I happen to use idle in my lectures frequently because idle is so plain and it doesn't take up very much space in my videos. But it's probably not a very great, very powerful interface for you to use. So I would recommend using Spyder instead. You could also use Jupyter Notebooks. You can use other things like PyCharm or VS Code for creating and executing Python as well. We cannot promise to support you if you use something other than Spyder or idle. So Spyder and idle are the ones that we claim to know about. If you use something else, you're kind of on your own. All right. Now, there is online documentation available that's very thorough. There is also a really excellent book called Python for Data Analysis, 3rd edition. This was published near the end of 2022. And you can access this book for free through the Carnegie Mellon University Library. So you don't have to pay for this book. And in fact, I am going to show you what's involved in gaining access to that book. Okay, so let me start myself a new browser tab, and I'm going to go to Carnegie Mellon University Library. Okay, CMU Libraries. I'm going to click that. I must have missed it. I'll click it again. There we go. Search. Explore our collections. So I'm looking for Python for data analysis. I'm going to look for 3rd edition. Python for data analysis, 3rd edition. There we go. Python for data analysis, 3rd edition. Now, you don't want to look at one of the older editions. There are also the 1st edition and 2nd edition available for Python, but those are getting quite outdated. So you definitely want this one, Python for Data Analysis 3rd edition. You see it's available online, so if I click on this book title, here we are. Now, you very likely will have to authenticate yourself by typing your Andrew ID and your password in order to gain access to this book. And let me click on this available online link. Chug, chug, chug. And here we go. Okay, so after you have authenticated yourself, you should gain access to this book, Python for Data Analysis, Data Wrangling with Pandas, NumPy, and Jupyter, Wes McKinney, and it will have this band that says 3rd edition up above there. When I click Continue, I get to the preface. Now, I want to just mention, in the upper right corner of your screen are these 3 horizontal lines here. This is the table of contents, and it's shown on the right side here. So we are currently in the preface. I can skip over the preface and go to Python Language Basics. Okay, that's chapter 2. I guess Preliminaries is chapter 1. What is this book about? What kinds of data? This is a really, really, really excellent book. I want to encourage you to refer to it and read parts of it as we go through the material. All right, well, back to the syllabus. The evaluation method to compute your grade is shown here. We will have homework on a weekly basis, and the homework will be worth 30% of your course grade. We will have quizzes on a weekly basis. The quizzes will be available on Canvas. Each quiz is quite short, 10 minutes typically, and the combined score of your various quizzes will be worth 15% of your grade. There are also some labs to do, which are sort of like mini homeworks, and those will be worth 15% of your grade. You will turn in the labs along with your homework assignments. And then there's also going to be a final project that you will work on with a group of 3 or 4 people, or possibly 5 people. I will have a lot more to say about that final project later this week. Okay, now, to each one of these tasks, whether it's a homework, a quiz, a lab, or part of the final project, I compute a grade ranging from A plus down to D minus, or perhaps even lower. Let's hope we don't have to investigate things lower than that. And it's these grades that I use to compute your eventual course grade. So on a homework assignment, for example, any score of 90 or better is an A. Everybody makes tiny little mistakes now and then, and I don't like to rank people based on the number of tiny little mistakes that you may or may not have made. So any score between 90 and 100 is an A. And I don't differentiate between a 90-point A and a 100-point A. I do not want you to be panicking over single points on homework assignments. If you get a 90, that's an A. If you get a 92, that's an A. If you get a 97, that's an A. If you get 100, that's an A. All of those are A's. And it's those letter grades that I use when I then compute your course grade. So let's suppose that you do get an A on all of your homework. Then your course GPA or QPA in CMU terms is going to include 30% of 4.0 is what an A is worth. There are 5 quizzes. Let's suppose that you get an A plus, 2 A's, an A minus, and another A plus. So your quiz contribution will be 15% of your average quiz. And then let's suppose that you get A's on all your labs, so that's another 15%. And let's suppose that you get an A on your final project. Okay, so that's going to be 40% of another 4.0. When you compute this out, since you got 2 A pluses and 1 A minus on your quizzes, you do end up computing a QPA that's just a little bit over 4.0, and because that is strictly greater than 4, you will end up getting an A plus for your course grade. If this computation results in a value that is equal to or slightly lower than 4.0, you'll probably get an A. And if your score here is below 3.85, you'll get an A minus, and so on. Okay. I do not give A plus grades for homework assignments or labs. These are collaborative. I will have you work on your homework assignments with a partner. And for labs, you're also allowed to work with other people. And so the best grade that you can get for those collaborative things is an A. I also want to point out that this table shown here is the Heinz grading scale. According to the Heinz grading scale, if you score 97 points or better out of 100, that's worth an A plus. And if you score between 93 and just a bit less than 97, that's worth an A. Between 90 and just less than 93 is an A minus, and so on. Now, you should consider this Heinz grading scale to be the worst case, the worst grade that you could get on a particular quiz. If I give you a quiz that turns out to be very easy, so that everybody in the entire class scores 97% or higher, then this Heinz grading scale will come into effect and everybody will get an A plus for that particular quiz. Sometimes a quiz might turn out to be harder than I think it is, And I might give you a quiz where the top score that anybody is able to achieve is, let's say, 80%. Well, that doesn't mean that the highest score anybody can get is a B minus. What it means is if the top score that anybody is able to achieve is an 80%, I will use 80% as where the A pluses start, and then I will create a curve for that specific quiz from 80% for A pluses down to whatever seems reasonable as far as lower scores. People have succeeded in failing quizzes. People have succeeded in getting D's on quizzes, but typically people do B's or better on quizzes. So I don't want to. You should take these quizzes very seriously. I don't want you to panic if you don't feel like you did very well, because your grade might end up being a little better than you might fear. All right. Learning objectives, topical outline, I think you can read. Everything that has a due date and time is due by that due date and time. There will be penalties for being late. Now, there are what I consider to be reasonable excuses for being late with submissions, and this would include things like having to travel for an interview, having to travel for things like weddings or hopefully not funerals. If you have to travel for things like that, if you are ill, please let me know that you're ill, and I'm willing to give you an extension for things. Other reasons for being late, I will not be very flexible about. If you have more than one thing due on a particular day, that's just life, and you're going to have to power through it, and so on. Okay, so health issues, family issues, interviews, those are kind of my three valid reasons for being late with things. Okay. I think the rest of this you can read for yourself. If you do have a disability, I am happy to offer accommodations as described for me by the Office of Disability Services. Under Carnegie Mellon University policy, if you have a disability, you cannot approach me directly and ask for an accommodation. You must apply through the Office of Disabilities, and they will make the request to me on your behalf, and I will be very happy to accept their request. But please, if you have a disability, yes, talk to the Office of Disabilities, and I will be happy to accommodate. But under university rules, I am not permitted to do that directly without the Office of Disabilities being involved. Collaboration on quizzes is strictly forbidden. These are individual efforts, but collaboration is encouraged for everything else. When you are learning to program, I do consider it vitally important to see what other people are doing and to contribute help to other people and get help from other people. So for homework, for labs, and for the final project, which is a group project, I encourage you to collaborate with other people. All right, the rest of all this, I believe you can probably read for yourself. So there we are. That is the syllabus, and I will see you tomorrow, Tuesday, March 14th. Take care. Bye.